So after essentially a month of getting our asses kicked by dragons, we return with Natural 9 episode 81, covering Critical Role episode 81. Last time, an incredibly deadly encounter with the disease deceiver Raishan ends with the party being nearly trapped in a giant cavern and the green dragon Raishan rushing away with 2 eggs and apparently the corpse of Thordak the Cinder King himself in tow. As the party takes a small breath, they take in the fact that Thordak's corpse is gone. Vex gets to work trying to harvest some of the red dragon's blood, and Kiki, after a bit of pain both physical and emotional, gets some heals from her boyf and looks for bits of Raishan. The party waits for the lair to stop doing those pesky actions and goes to work exploring the cavern while the twins scout up top to see if the fighting is still going. It's still going, but the tide seems to have turned in the favor of the freedom fighters. After finally reading the note on her gift Dragon Slayer arrow, Vex and Vax go searching for Zara and Cash, who are found pretty easily, rushing away from something. It's a fucking fire giant! Vex Jengas, the rest of the party starts rushing up to them, as the giant is taken out by Jarrett. And Carrick! That bearded bastard finished the giant with his great holy hammer, and Patrick Rothfuss is back to reprise him. Kiki's bestie came to fight, ran into K and Z, and helped them take out 5 giants. Stories are traded and hugs are had as most of Vox Machina comes out to meet him. Carrick awkwardly lumbers to Kiki as she goes in for the hug that he was kinda doubting. Kiki then throws up a sky-written symbol of Iman to try to quell the fighting. Grog and Cash bring real life into kayfabe as they trade barbs over a sports ball team of all things, not even a good one like the Arizona Cardinals. And Vax takes a hit to the balls because Kasha never forgets. That's 2. Percy yells to spread the word of Thordak's fall, and Carrick tells his own friends who came to fight to help out. Then Kiki guides him down into the hole. Yes, Laura Bailey snorted at that phrasing. Why do you ask? Meanwhile, down in the hole, Kima and Devosa, the badass dragon, explore a bit. Scanlan takes out his Sood and prepares a third of the drug. After checking in on the Scambo, Devosa is approached by Gilmore, who is a big fan of his home continent's big cheese. A kind word from Pike puts Scanlan off from taking the Sood, thankfully. Then Kima asks everyone to do some more exploration, distracting the group, and Scanlan pulls out the suit again. Fucking hell, man, this is a dark path. An intelligence check of 6 confirms that fuck yeah, snort that shit. So he does. It burns. So damn much. So he takes out his expended Jamon Saord flute, packs some in, and like the Beyblades before him, he lets it rip. One failed constitution save later, he gets a head rush and the colors taste amazing. And then they disappear. He's out. Fuck, Scanlan, if you die from this! The rest of Vox Machina shows up and check on the thankfully unconscious Scanlan. Some kind of bungled investigations later, Kiki confirms that this is a classic Scanlan move, and she and Vex dig through his pockets, find a porn book, and then don't find other shit. Scanlan finally wakes up after being healed. He tries to give an excuse that a lair action took him out, with Kiki believing him the precious cinnamon roll. And he masterfully shifts the conversation to why the fuck Vax rushed in on a shit situation again. It's a genuine concern on Scanlan's part. The party then talks about their success or failure in the fight with Raishan. Then Vax picks up Scanlan, takes him to a corner, and starts unbuckling. Kima walks up and doesn't stop it. Phantom dick? Anyone? Thankfully, it's nothing like that. Vax pulls out a note, gives it to Scanlan, and storms off. It says, "You were right," probably referring to his argument about Vax rushing into things. Kiki apologizes for being the one that started the rushing in, and Vax says it's okay because they need to keep going and do everything they can. At the thought that Kiki might have misread his letter, Kara says that he sucks at writing them. They talk a bit about doing what you can and not being super selfish, revenge-seeking people. Kara also points out that if they managed to survive in the encounter after she knew everything about them, and the fact that they fought another fucking dragon before that, it's a good sign. Devosa really enjoys watching the soap opera of Vox Machina, but says they need to head back to Ankarel to protect it. After some wisdom, they take off back to Marquette. Heals are had, short rests are had, and Carrick TPKs the party on behalf of Jim Dark Magic. Dark Magic, Dark Magic, Dark Magic. I'm kidding. Or am I? You don't know. You do know. He actually heals Kiki and comforts her, while Cash heals Vex. Ha. I get it. Cash heals Vex. Do you guys get it? Looting time! Grog gets bored and heads to the shiny. Thordak is fucking loaded. Of course he was. He stole loot from all over Amon, the richest city in Taldore. Gold, silver, platinum, art, statues, artifacts. Millions of GP. Millions. Grog finds another immovable rod, smashes vases and tosses the green gems inside, finds and ignores a blue carpet that's been rolled up, and comes across a small, beautiful box. He rips it open with all the subtlety of a 4-year-old opening a Nintendo 64, and inside is a small pouch with some golden cards inside. Oh no. Oh god. Rothfuss and Marisha immediately catch what it is, and then Laura and Liam do, and then I do, and then I run! Oh god! Travis doesn't immediately catch it and almost throws it in the lava. Probably a good idea, maybe, I don't know. Thankfully, Laura Bailey manifests into the campaign and tells him to stop that shit. Vex rushes to the carpet and immediately tries to make it fly. Grog then proves that his intelligence is a blessing for us and a curse for him, as he draws his last pathetic card, Yugi. Thankfully, Grog's grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, except maybe Kynan, but it does have the key. Apparently this was the wrong card and he should have had -2 to all his saves and checks from that point forward, but who cares, you smelly nerds? He gains what Gilmore later identifies as a dancing blade. Grog immediately checks for voices in the blade. Fool him once, shame on him. Fool him twice, I mean it's Grog. Grog tosses the deck, and then Vex grabs it, and Percy immediately identifies the deck as the deck of many things, and immediately suggests never touching it again. Vex then tells Grog that he can keep the next deck of many things that they find, and he goes to search for one, ignoring all the platinum around him. Thankfully, there's other non-world-ending good things in the pile, and Vex finds some really nice elven magic boots and a badass warhammer. She then ignores that shit and gets to work to try to make the carpet fly. And she does, on the word lift. It might actually be Alora's carpet. You fucking better give it back, you thieving witch. It's also blue and pretty. Once the stuff's been divvied up, most of the treasure is left because it's literally millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. No? Okay. But gems, platinum, and some bits of gold for themselves are acquired. Then they talk about the clasp and if they're gonna get their bit that they were promised. Scanlan's convinced that they're gonna take everything, but Kiki argues that the underbelly needs the city alive so they won't do that? What? Who is she and what did she do to Keyleth? What's that? Character development is a thing. Get out of town. Anyway, I need to call that phone line to complain about Keyleth. More discussions are had about where the gold is going to go. Ultimately, Kima is put in charge to make sure that money is distributed well, and the crew turns their attentions to next steps. Keyleth scries on Raishan successfully. She's not at Whitestone, thankfully. She's actually on a far distant island, looking through books in her human form. Thordak's corpse laying a bit of way, and so are the eggs that she stole. What is she up to? Well, the good news is that she's not going to kill everyone in Whitestone, so that's nice. The party then heads up to the surface, where things are calming down. The city of Amon in general is pretty fucked up, but if anyone can rebuild, it's the capital. Vox Machina talks a bit to War Master Daxio, and Topher Bertoris shows up, happy as fuck that Vox Machina is still alive. They exchange stories and assurances of allies' continued lives. Discussion begins about where the island that Keyleth saw Raishan might be. Carrick thinks it might be pretty far south, where more volcanic activity might occur. And the fact that Raishan was digging around in someone else's stuff, from the looks of it, is telling that this lab that she found must be a famous person's lab. Most likely someone that was practiced in necromancy, if the stealing of a dead dragon corpse is anything to go by. A Percy roll yields information about two famous necromancers, their old pal Vecna, who's more tied to the history of Wildmount, so probably not him. Probably. And Opash, a sanctioned necromancer from Marquette who was set to be executed for his dangerous experiments, but was ultimately banished out to sea thanks to his own silver tongue. Vox Machina continues to try to connect the dots and blame Raishan for the Orb of Death under Whitestone, and Gilmore shows up, glyph still on his forehead. He tries to dismiss it, but his friends press to find out what it means. Gilmore reveals to them that he's something called a rune child, and this power is a gift, like scoliosis, which he doesn't go into too many details about because it's apparently a sore subject. Something about persecution. I can understand his hesitancy. Grog then asks for some identification of his pretty new sword, which Gilmore identifies as a dancing sword. No, it doesn't dance, but it attacks on its own, which is bitchin'. Ultimately, the party decides to head to Whitestone to rest, regroup, and prepare their next steps. They part ways with Daxio and make sure that some of the gold that the class was owed is given to them. He says it's cool. Vox Machina and their allies take 6 episodes walking through Iman, seeing familiar sights, some damaged, some standing defiantly, people helping each other, with many nodding thanks to the returning heroes. They eventually make it back to the keep and jump into the tree to return to a new morning sun in Whitestone. As they walk to the castle, Vox Machina gives Care a tour and a primer on what's happened in the now peaceful town. Cassandra must really not like being woken up pretty early, but she happily receives the news that Thordak has fallen and the introduction of Care. She also suggests that these messy nerds need to take a bath, which Percy acknowledges by hugging her in his mucky glory. She is such a tsundere. It's great. Scanlan finds Jarrett, who says he won't ever do the drug dealings ever again, and then Scanlan thanks him by casting Modify Memory, weaving a tale of pity and sorrow that will get Jarrett to keep supplying. I'm speechless. But not as speechless as when Vax entered Percy's bath.
No,
Very
no,
quickly, and walk in the buck, and I find Percival's bath, and silently walk in while he's bathing, and I sit in the bath on the other side, and just stare for a minute.
You know you're getting weirder.
They have a small conversation about being family and becoming like brothers, while naked, in a bath. It's touching, but also naked in a bath. Vax leaves after showing his brother his ass. Vex isn't impressed. Yeah, she was underneath the water in the bath during the entire exchange. Girl can hold her breath. And that's all we're gonna say about that. Breakfast is had, breakfast wine is drunk, and the actual next steps are discussed. Gurix the Pit Fiend is mentioned as an issue, but Scanlan, knowing of such things, figures that Gurix's ass-kicking at the hands of these fucking randoms would have earned him a slot in the Nine Hells shit list, so probably no problems there. Laura comes out, and Scanlan offers her the new flying carpet to replace the old one they stole, borrowed, commandeered, immediately earning him a stink eye from Vex. Allura, thankfully, figures that they should keep using it at least until she gets her new tower built. She then tells them that Raishan's probably going to be on that island that Thordak used as a base back in the day, which Vex recalls is the island of Viscon, south of the Lucidian Ocean. Care asks if the island would be in a volcanic region, which Allura confirms. Discussions of what exactly Raishan wants are had, and Kiki and Allura talk about scrying on the island to see if they can confirm it's the island that Keyless scried earlier. Meanwhile, Grog and Vax get Care to take some of that Sandkeg's hide, and then he rolls a natural 1 on the con save. Beautiful. You know who else is beautiful? Allura. And you know what she does? She takes a swig of the Sandkeg's hide herself, and resists the effects because she's the fucking best ever. I'm not thirsty. I don't know what you're talking about. The scry confirms that the island of Iskan is indeed the one that Rai Rai has taken shelter in. An argument can be made for going now, with no rests on either side, or going later, heals, but on both sides. Allura says that either could be a good choice, and confirms that the sandkeg side has minimal effect on her, as she slurs for like a millisecond. Still best girl. Deliberations are made and ultimately they decide to rest and go, bringing Allura with them this time. Besides, Raishan's pouring through all those books, so chances are she won't sleep. Preparation is performed, with Vax and Keyleth having a super sweet moment where he gives her a pep talk about doubting herself, as he gives her a small trim to get rid of those burnt edges. I love your new hair, Kiki. Meanwhile, Scanlan burns the letter that he got from Vax and prepares his third thing of Sood to smoke because of course he's going to do that. Allura confirms that she's going to be there during the fight. The party sleeps. I don't think I've busted a gut that hard in a while. Was that just the breather we needed? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even follow me on these Twitters if you fancy. I've been Arthur from Natural 9. And is it Thursday yet?